Good morning, everybody. I'm Tommy, and you're on the Love Boat. What's happening? It's Friday, people. It's the day that people get paid. It's always a good thing, right? It's the day when youngsters go out and try to get what rhymes with paid. Tommy Bird is in the house. Barbara Aldrich is here. And there we go. Taylor Miller, what's happening? Morning, gang. Yep, it's and you know what? It's going to be a good one. It really is. It's going to be a good one. I don't just mean the boat, but I mean the day. It's going to be a hell of a day. And I'm looking forward to it. Natalie, how are you? Hey, Jay Rambo, good to see you. I am using a different laptop. So can I get a 5x5? This is new equipment. Well, it's not, but it should be if I didn't live in a developing country. I'm going to be going and getting an actual new laptop, but this is one that is being used for the purpose. Rocket Queen, oh yeah. Rocket Queen. It's funny because I bet you get worked into this. Cindy G, yeah, there you are. Apparently, I get paid every Sunday. Weird. How about that? Isn't that odd? Hey, Barbara. Good. Look at all those 5x5s. That's a beautiful thing. So I missed you guys yesterday after the morning show. I really dig the morning show. It's there are drawbacks to the morning show. It makes doing the stuff I do at night difficult. It really does. It's may end up doing 2 morning shows. It's going to kill me financially, but it very well might happen because the stuff that we do here is the reason that I started this channel. It's the reason that we got going. So in the first place, so to speak, the show today, we're going to talk about buttons. We're going to talk about triggers. We're going to talk about what sets you off. The term trigger has gained way too much in popularity, in my humble opinion. It really has. I love our morning meetings, says Taylor Miller. And you know what? I do as well. Boy, it's refreshing to hit somebody's name and have it pop up instantly as opposed to whenever it wants. That was the problem with the laptop that the furry freshman kicked onto the floor. Hey, Tony Suter, good morning, and how are ya? Hope you're having a good morning. It's going to be one of those days here, a little bit overcast. Been enjoying the morning show, but I like the night shows too. You know, we'll be honest since we're all friends here. You're not late, Jane. We're just catching up. The night shows are important. It's stuff that needs to be talked about. But when I come on the morning show, I don't have to worry about filling stuff up. I don't have to worry about filler. I don't have to worry about doing any of the stuff that I have to worry about at night. And I don't mean that I don't have to do a lot of research for the morning show because I've done all of the research for the morning show that I'll ever have to do. I've done it over and over and over again because I'm not talking about something that is a subject that's going to be in and out of my head in 2 weeks. This is the stuff that keeps me from shooting dope. This is the stuff that keeps me from raging. And this is stuff that I've been working on for a decade. You know, this is the focus of all that I am. Now, it's God in my life as well, but God is what allows me to put the things that I'm talking about here into practice, because if I don't, then I'm going to be in deep doo-doo. One of the things, since this is a show, especially for the first 30 days, we're going to be talking about journaling, right? Everything always kind of weaves back to that book. I remember very specifically being told to make a list of my triggers. The first time I was told this, and they even used the word trigger back then, was about 1.5 million years ago. Hey, Ashley G. And I'm not joking. I think the first time I heard the concept of triggering or something triggering you, it was vis-a-vis dope. It wasn't anything else. It wasn't that I was going to be triggered by something someone said to hurt my feelings, or I was going to be triggered to go into an emotional whatever. It was, this makes me want to use. This gets so into my dome that I'm in danger of using. Morning show is more important in my opinion. Also, I've been working evening shift, but I've been able to catch most shows. At the night show, I feel sometimes like, well, you know, we're talking about Epstein. I need to go do a show about Epstein. The world is talking about this. I need to go do a show about this. And it becomes almost like it's something that I have to do. It's not something that I want to do. And, some subjects I really, you hear about it and you go, ooh, I want to research this. I want to look at this from a different angle. But sometimes I feel like it's almost like I have to do it. And it's when you have to do something, it feels way more like a job. And that's when I'm in danger of phoning things in. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I was listening and getting ready today for appointments. All right. So I missed not being here yesterday, but important appointments. You know, something you can't blow off appointments. And the good news is it really is a lot better if you're here live. You interact, you can ask questions, you can listen to what the people who are sitting in your group with you are talking about. And very often that's going to be the kind of thing that gets you thinking. Way more than the stuff I'm talking about. More often, it's going to be the life experiences of all of the people in the chat. So I was in a group at the time called Willing Inmates Nationally Gaining Sobriety. And it would have been almost 30 years ago, I think, at this point. They said, the next time you're staring down at a blank piece of paper in your journal, start to write down all of the things that make you want to use. And the first one I wrote down, I remember like it was yesterday, and I wrote it because the day before, and I had a decent chunk of sobriety under my belt at that point. I don't mean years, but I mean probably 60 days. I was past the physical part of all of the withdrawals. But the day before this assignment happened, it started to snow, and it was the first snow of the year. And the first snow of the year for me was always the most vicious trigger on earth, because from the time that I was, just come online, from the as far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a skier. No, as far back as I can remember, honestly, the first time it snowed, my dad was triggered. Everybody in the entire state was triggered. They were triggered for skiing, but skiing was a place that I could go and do dope. My parents were never there. They weren't going to see what was happening. I don't mean heroin, because that came way later, but it was where I could go get high. It was where I could go drink. It was where I could go do anything, because once they dropped me off at the mountain, there wasn't anybody watching me. And even when I got to the point where I was being trained, the people that were training me were also doing all of the stuff that I was doing. So that has been a massive trigger my entire life. And it's so much worse. And this is something that's really worth thinking about. That was so much worse for me. Hello, Lisa, because this was very, very real. Bad heart day for my roommate. Oh no, feeling super hypervigilant. Prayers are ones, good vibes, please. Can we get that for Lisa's roommate? And, without going way into detail, but we're all friends here, this is something that Lisa has to deal with on the regular. And we all do, but this is to a greater extent. Lisa really is a very caring and giving person, and especially with this individual. Sometimes I think more than a roommate, there's very much a caregiver aspect to that. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I promise you I'm not. But it's that hypervigilancy requires effort from parts of our body that we don't normally use, from parts of our brain that we don't normally use. It is a trigger. She's now triggered into a whole different realm, right? Now you're worried, you have angst, you have fear, you have the responsibility. You feel like this person's safety is literally in the palm of your hand. And that's a hard thing to work with. So all the ones we can get for Lisa would be great. Hey, Jay Rambo, you saw a Rocket Queen in here. That was one of my huge triggers. And this was really a trigger for drugs. It was Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction, the entire first album. I mean, every song on there was a huge trigger for me. And I've told everybody why. That was my soundtrack for smack. And it was theirs too. One of the reasons that album affects me is because of what it was about. That album's about heroin, I promise you. Very much so. Kevin Hawthorne, Lakeland, Florida. Glad you're here. So back to the snow. There are triggers that don't have anything to do with dope. That triggered me to want to go skiing. That triggered me to want to compete. That triggered me for all of the things that embodied. And there was a place we kept all of our ski equipment when we lived in Vermont. And when you opened the door to go in there and get it, there was a poster. It was not poster size, but halfway between like a piece of paper and a poster. So it was like a playbill, maybe 24 inches high and, maybe 12, 13 inches. No, you don't have to change your name. And about 14 inches wide. And I'll tell you why you don't need to change your name a little later. But it said snow fever. And it was talking about it like this was something you really needed to worry about. And it told you all the symptoms. And I read that every year as a kid. That was, once I saw that, it means the door was open and that the ski equipment was coming out. And for the rest of that season, the year was going to be different. Unfortunately, I was going to get injured. It was going to happen probably within the first month. There was going to be an injury because we weren't just going up there and carving nice, fun turns. We were doing aerials. We were doing things that we were pushing ourselves very heavily. And I'd break something or I'd, dislocate something or whatever, and then the pain pills would start. And as stupid as it sounds, they were, to me, were just part of the plan. I had to take these so that I wasn't in pain. And if I wasn't in pain, I could continue to ski. I had no idea about addiction, and I didn't even know that pain pills were a drug that people could abuse. It made no sense to me at the time. In fact, I would be sitting in my house with a bottle of pain pills this big, trying to get the guys that sold weed on the phone because I was wanting to get high. I had no clue that those pills did that until after there was a time when I started taking them when I had no pain in my body, and then it was a completely different game and I was lost. But it's fascinating to think that at the end of every single season, I just kicked. Like at the end of ski season always got me sick. And it was so easy. It wasn't hell. I wasn't going through it. You're sick. When you're sick, you go through it. Until you realize there's a way to make that sick go away. Until you realize that you had the ability to make that sick stop. And now I'm in it. Now it really became an issue because I wasn't going to just take that week and feel bad. I was going to make it stop. Right. So I'm in this drug program, and they want us to list all of the triggers. Again, so many books have been written, so much self-help stuff. The number of hours that you can find on the big red button that will be people just talking about triggers. Sometimes we give way too much power to things, and we can do that just with words, but we give way too much power to the concept of the trigger. When the last election was coming up, people would say, you can't talk to me about this. It triggers me. And shut the hell up. You're giving power to things that you shouldn't. We can't take the word trigger and make it so awesomely powerful that you can't control yourself. If somebody says a word, your life's over. Or your day. Somebody says a word, Trump. Right? That word triggers me. Good God, really? I mean, I understand people not liking people, but we've gotten to be a society where certain words, here are my trigger words, don't say this. I got a better idea. Why don't you figure out why they're your trigger words and get your feces together? Honestly, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I know people are going to get upset at me. But if you give power at that level to words, staying sober is going to be a bitch. So is staying happy. It's the 95% we can't control again. This is it, right? And by the way, you can't control somebody's speech. They'd like to think you can. But if you say to somebody, here's my trigger words, don't say this. Okay, what's next? Honestly, pictures that have mountains in them, right? I was a skier. If I come over to your house to eat, could you take down that Ansel Adams you got with the snow and the tree? Because man, that just makes me want to get high, for real. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but that really, really triggers me. I can understand things like, yeah, Blake Lively. I can completely understand things like if you're recently sober from alcohol, going to a party with 25 people there, and 24 of them are going to be holding cocktails in their hand, that's a legit trigger. Now, if the person you're going to see is having a party of 8 people and their family, to say to them, hey, I may not come to this because the 8 people there are going to be drinking, that's a trigger for me. I think that's legit. Or if I come there, I don't feel strong enough. Hey, Carolina, Canada, good to see you. Hey, Cheryl, I don't feel comfortable enough yet in sobriety, to just say to somebody, I'm an alcoholic, so I don't drink. So if you could have some club soda there, maybe a lime, because I'm going to feel more comfortable if I have one of those in my hand than having to answer to all of the people who are going to say to me, hey, why aren't you drinking? For a lot of people, that is a trigger. Why aren't you drinking? Because I'm an addict. I struggle with this. This is something that I can't do anymore. Is a hard thing to say. It really is. It's a very difficult thing to say. And the longer that you're sober, the less difficult it's going to be. And I'm blessed in that I'm never going to go to a party where there's 25 people in the house and all of them are walking around with a spoon, with dope in it, cooking it up. I talk about this a lot, but the people who are fighting things that are so readily available, the people whose excuses are right there are absolutely legit triggers. And then there are excuses. Booyah. There are legit triggers. Ashley G says the trigger word is overdone these days. Just my opinion. I think you're right. And I think you'd be shocked at how few people would argue with you on that. Ashley, I just don't think you're going to get a lot of people that go, no, it's not overdone. In fact, we don't talk about it enough. It's constant. And we water it down. That anytime you make something that pervasive, once it becomes part of your everyday speech, it gets watered down. And things that you might not want to talk about because it's just an uncomfortable thing, then we make it a trigger. That's not a trigger. And people are going to talk about things that make you uncomfortable. Welcome to the world. That's a you thing. That's not a them thing, right? As an addict, as somebody just living, you need to be able to distinguish the difference between a you thing and a they thing, right? I'm a drug addict. I was addicted to heroin. That's a me thing, right? And the triggers that go along with that are me things. If one of the things that triggers me is pictures of snowfall or the first snow of the year or ski videos or whatever, those are my triggers. That's a me thing. If I say to you, I'm coming over for your Christmas party, please don't have any images of snowfall in your house, right? I'm trying to turn my me thing into a you thing. And it's stupid. I'm sorry, it is. It's stupid to think that people should do that. You understand what I'm saying? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And unfortunately, we're guilty as hell of doing things that don't make a whole lot of sense. I talk about staying in your lane. So in sobriety, when you quit using, we have a way of getting out of our lane because it makes us feel better. It's not just in sobriety, right? Have you ever met a very religious person who just wants to tell you why you're not really a religious person? You know, someone will say, yeah, I'm a Christian. And they go, he's not really one. Ooh, man. Or he's a Buddhist. He's not really a Buddhist. If I were you, I would let your God determine who's real and who's not. That's kind of an ugly thing. The same thing applies to sobriety. The same thing applies to everything, right? We do this. Rhino, that's a Republican in name only. We like to take people and this is how they identify, and we go, no, not really. How they identify is another thing. But triggers, buttons, whatever you want to call them. They asked me to make a list of all of the things that were going to trigger me. And the first one I put down was the first snowfall of the year because it's a big one. That's a big trigger. And then I wrote down all of the songs off of Appetite for Destruction. And here's the crazy thing, and I'm telling you this right hand to God. When we came back the next day for class, they said, we're going to have people read their triggers. And I thought, you got to be kidding me. And they said to the first person, what are your triggers? They listed 5 of them, right? This triggers me, that triggers me. They were done. They went to the next person. I thought, I did this wrong. Like I did this assignment wrong. I had 4 pages of a notebook, right? 4 pages. Well, it's 2, but front and back. So 4 pages of things that triggered me. See, I had been doing dope for so damn long that everything that I did in my life, everything that other people did in my life, I wish I could stay. I have to walk into my office now. I'll catch the replay. Have a great Friday, everyone. Thank you, Jay Rambo, and thanks for popping in and just letting us know you're here. It means the world. I mean that. I love it when people come in and say, I can't stay, but I just wanted to say hello, because we're a community. We really are. People talk about communities online or communities on YouTube. This is a little different. This is actually a community because people care about one another. When somebody doesn't show up here for 2 or 3 days, people reach out to me and say, hey, where's so-and-so? You know how to get a hold of them? I'm concerned about them. Judgment and hypocrisy are both really ugly things in this world, says Tommy Bird. Yeah, and we don't stay in our lane. Not in sobriety, not in politics. You know, there are certain things that are considered triggers to the world, which is kind of sad. But if I said to you, you're going on a first date, can you think of 3 or 4 things you probably shouldn't talk about on that first date? This is a thing, believe this. There are people who say, listen, on the first date, maybe don't bring up gun control, right? Gun advocate, non-gun advocate. Don't bring up politics. Don't bring up abortion. Don't bring up hot button topics. Have you ever heard this? They're hot button topics. You can rephrase that. This stuff is so polarizing that the people are going to hate you if you don't believe what they believe. Fascinating, but it's the truth. If you talk about your politics, your political leanings, there's a good chance that the person you talk to may not like you. I missed yesterday for a group on trauma. I figured out why I find the boat's messages so helpful in my life, because the solutions are much the same, even if addiction and PTSD. Yeah, see, this is kind of funny. Hey, court reporter, good to see you. Taylor Miller, glad that you're here, and you look really good in green. This is such an awesome comment, and if you didn't make it, I might not have talked about this, at least the way that I should have. So I'm going to read it again. Cindy G says, I missed yesterday for a group on trauma. I figured out why the boat messages are so helpful in my life, because the solutions are much the same, even if addiction and PTSD are different labels. Labels are good and labels can be bad. But the opposite of addiction is what? The opposite of addiction, at least in my mind, is not sobriety. It's not recovery. The opposite of addiction is connection. Archie's mom, good to see you. People who suffer from PTSD don't normally run into crowds of people to try to talk and communicate. That's not something that happens very often. So people who suffer from anything, people who suffer from serious trauma need to say, "Way, William, good to have you alive, my brother." People who suffer from anything, we pull back. We pull back. You're in a relationship and the relationship is not going well. The two of you are not on the same page and you're starting to fight. Do you go toward each other? Do you get together and start talking about all of the things that are messing you up? More often than not, you take what your partner's doing to piss you off and you back off, right? And you stew on that. And you think, if I talk about this, it's going to make them angry. And I don't want this thing to blow up. There's a football game this weekend, and I was hoping to have fun with that. Have I done shows on naltrexone or the Sinclair method? I have. And send me an email, and I will send you some stuff on it. And more than likely, I'll be doing more shows on it. They come up a lot, but I absolutely have. But the opposite of addiction is connection. The opposite of everything ailing you is connection. I promise. There are so few things that are going to happen to you in your life where connecting more and talking about things that bring us all in common aren't going to be the solution. Think about it. You're fighting with your wife, you're fighting with your husband. If you come together and try to communicate more, that's the opposite, right, of everything bad. And if whatever's blowing it up, coming together and talking, if it doesn't fix it, it's going to tell you you can't, right? And a lot of times people stay in bad situations forever. You have a boss at work that's just a jerk. You don't talk to your husband or wife about how much you hate being at that office because you don't want to, you pull everything in, right? You do this one. If you had sat down every night and said to your loved one, "I hate going to work. When I get up in the morning and I put my shoes on, it just starts making me want to go crazy. It drives me insane." Your significant other is going to go, quit. We'll figure it out. If I got to get a second job until you can get one, I don't want you hurting. I don't want you going someplace that makes you miserable, right? That's the 5%, isn't it? I missed yesterday as I woke up feeling angry, anxious, and no reason why. So I took my wee Archie dog and went walking on canals. And by the time I got home, I was recharged and feeling good. Fantastic. It sounds like you have figured out a way to get through. You have things that you have built coping skills into your life. And it sounds like Archie is a big part of that. You know what else is, honestly? When we start getting really pissed off and we stay in the same room or we stay in the same house or office or whatever, when you leave, right, and you go outside, funny things happen. You're looking at different stuff. You're hearing different stuff. You're smelling different stuff. You seeing a pattern? All of your senses, all of the input devices that you can put into your brain just changed like that. Don't stare at the same four walls because it's very difficult when you are in a cycle of, a downward spiral. Man, I hate my life. I'd like to get high. Man, everything sucks. I can't stand this person. You're circling the drain. Change what you're looking at, right? Change everything because staring at those walls, there's no new input. Your brain doesn't have to think about what it's looking at. It's already got the entire image. It's got the map, everything. You go outside, there's novelty. Cars are going by and you're going, man, I can't stand that. Was that a Porsche? What the hell was that? It's hard to stay on a subject matter when a bunch of things are flying by, when a bunch of new noises are coming in, because your brain is going to process the things coming by. It's going to process the noises. It's going to process the smells. And it's hard to keep the hate anger or the anxious anger emotion or any of the emotion that's just running your life. It's hard to focus on that if there's a bunch of new input. I was so lost and anxious after my son was officially diagnosed with autism. I found a local autism mom group and have finally been able to speak my concerns and learn how to be an advocate for my son. And you know what else you did? Whether you realize it or not, you stopped believing that you're the only person in the world feeling the things that you're feeling. Now, it sounds stupid, right? But it's the same thing with addiction. You find out that you're addicted to drugs. You come to the realization that you're an alcoholic or you're a heroin addict or whatever it is. Statistically speaking, there's a bunch of us, right? But inside your brain, you're different than all of those people. right? Your emotions, what you're feeling is so different than what everybody else is feeling that it's a unique situation. There's a lot of power to realizing that the situations we're in aren't unique. There's a ton of power to that. When you realize that there are other people staring at the same empty walls and having the same kind of feelings. The getting out and being able to walk around thing. Do you know why that's so huge in my life? Because I spent 13 years trapped at looking at the same four walls. Hey, Valerie, first time in ages? Well, it's good to have you here. I stared at prison cell walls, and I didn't have the ability, if I was trying to get out of my head, to leave and change my scenery. The smells weren't going to get any different. The sounds, men screaming, men yelling back and forth to each other. Hello, Cliff Ann, just terrible cacophony, nonstop, round the clock sound. And I couldn't stop any of those things. And it was amazing what happened once I had the ability to get outside. Taylor Miller says, everyone has a little pity party for a minute when something significant happens. No question. And you know, you're entitled to it. You're entitled to it. You're just not supposed to live in it. It's like when somebody passes on a scale of 1 to 10, that's a 10. You know, this is crazy, but it's true. We've lost a crap load of stars recently, right? A lot of famous people have passed away in the last week. For some people, Ozzy Osbourne is a huge part of their life because when he was making music and you were waiting for the next album to come out, you know, when Jerry Garcia died, that knocked the wind out of me. It was like getting punched in the stomach. And there are other stars, like Chris Farley's death was devastating to me. We become very attached to things. You're allowed a pity party. You're allowed to sit down and go, man, that sucks. If 9 days later you can't stop thinking about Ozzy, you're giving too much power to this, right? It's a part of your life. The music was great. He's not your dad. But we can get into cycles where we give way too much power. And Ozzy invented reality TV. I spent most of my time doing nothing but sleep and cuddle with a cat. I need to get back on track. Well, you said it out loud. Huge, right? You said it out loud. That's not suffering in silence. You may still be suffering, but at least we know about it. Can we get some ones in the chat for Valerie? Here's the problem with so many of us. Hey, good to see you, Audra. The problem with so many of us in the things that are going on in our life is that as stuff starts getting bad, leaving and going out into the world becomes scarier. And the sad thing is that is the cure to what's going on. The number of people in the last week, I'm not joking, maybe 10 days, that wrote to me in emails and said, I went to the store for the first time in a year. I went for a walk for the first time in 7 months. And if I said this to people in the normie community, they would go, what? Somebody hasn't gone out of their house. What? Because they've never felt an emotion that is so devastating and so strong that the only solution that makes sense in your brain is to withdraw from the world. But we have people that work in the therapist community. There are many people on the boat who do that. We have a lot of therapists here. I promise you, if you ask any of them, Kristen Melinda, if you ask Kristen Melinda, do you ever give the advice when someone comes in to talk to you? You say, listen, this is really starting to bother you. Here's what you want to do. Take it, pull it in. Don't tell anybody about it, right? And just keep it all inside. And then give it 2 or 3 months and everything will just smooth right out. Sounds stupid as hell to say, doesn't it? I mean, it's silly. It sounds like something you'd say on Saturday Night Live. But the number of us that do it, the opposite of everything bad is connection. And if you can identify what causes you to start having those feelings, right? How about mechanisms? Because I'll tell you something, we've given power to the word trigger that I don't know that I'm comfortable talking about. Certainly not with people that I'm trying to help. Because the trigger now has come to mean something that you can't overcome. Once that trigger's pulled, the projectile is going to go smoking out of the front of that barrel, right, at 5,000 feet per second, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's what a trigger is now. It's not what it's supposed to be. A trigger used to be something that was going to cause you to think about drugs, to think about alcohol, any of those things. Yeah, I have to go back to work today. Trigger, leaving my comfortable house stresses me out. Sounds ridiculous. The hell it does. The hell it does. It doesn't sound ridiculous at all. If you were in a different chat, it might. It's one of the reasons that getting together with people that understand what you're going through, And it just reinforces the point that I made. You know why that sounds ridiculous? It sounds ridiculous because you're feeling that these emotions make you unique. Nobody else could be feeling that, right? Leaving your comfortable house, and just being almost, and I don't mean scared like this, but I mean, it's a fear that, I got to go out there. And when I leave here, all of the stuff that makes me happy is going to be gone. That's not a fear that's unique, my brother. That is a fear that is, especially here, that's less unique than almost anything. Almost everybody goes through that to some degree. I get agoraphobic when I'm really stressed out. I don't understand it. You should. I promise you, this should make sense. When we start getting stressed out, we believe, erroneously, that the outside world is going to be all of this new stimuli that we're not going to be able to deal with. Hell, I can't even deal with what's going on in here. Obviously, I can't go out. It's ass backwards from up here. I promise it is. But it is logical in the minds of addicts. It's logical in the minds of people who are struggling with things mentally. I'm safe in here. Out there is that damn 5%. In here, I can run the 5%. No one's going to come up to me and say this. There isn't going to be a car that might hit me. I can't get a flat tire. The 5%, the stuff that I can't control, well, that's all out there. Right? Everything that I can't control is outside this door. If I'm feeling bad in here, I can go get me something to eat. If I'm stressed out, I can go play with my cat. I can control what's up in here. The 5% in my home, I can control. I'm not going to grow, right? I'm not going to challenge myself. And I'm not going to talk or stroll or come into contact with the cure for what is driving me nuts. It's hard to get a dopamine hit from novelty when your issue is fear of unfamiliar places or situations. I'm working on it. You know what, Barbara Waite? It's a great comment. And this is real. We'll reform it in a question. What do you do to get a dopamine hit, right? If your issue is fear of unfamiliar places or unfamiliar situations, what you have to do is try to figure out the degree of fear that is brought on by different places. So that 1 through 10 thing, group size may be a big thing. A group of 4 people may be on that scale of 1 to 10, a 2, where a group of 400 people might be a 10. It may be the exact opposite. As a public speaker, if they put me in a room and there's 20 people that I'm speaking to, that is way different than if I got to go speak to 2,000. And you may think, yeah, 2,000 would be way scarier. No, it's not. It's like looking off my balcony. I can see the faces of the people 250 feet below. I can't see a lot of it, but I know they're people. That's frightening because I can really, I understand this is height, right? I can see things that really bring that home. Jumping out of an airplane doesn't do the same thing to me because it looks like you're jumping onto the risk board, right? You're jumping onto an atlas. It doesn't, there's a disconnect because it's not intimate height, right? It's over the top height. Speaking to 2,000 people, that's just a group. Speaking to 20 people, I can see every one of those 20 people. If they're saying, or if they're thinking, ooh, this guy sucks, I'm going to realize they're thinking that because it's such an intimate group that I can make eye contact with all of them. So Barbara, I would take that journal and I would write what situations freak me out the most. If it's 4 people, I do okay. Or if it's 400, I do okay. There are the distance that I go from my safety. There are people who get agoraphobic, but they got no problem going to the store as long as it's 100 yards away. But they have agoraphobia in a circle of 1/4 of a mile. And that falls within that range of, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay in here. But the point is, if you understand, then you can push it. I don't want you to shatter it, right? I don't want you to do something that's going to scare the hell out of you. Ashley G says, does anyone find male overwhelming? Yeah, Barbara, there's no reason to shatter it. But if you can identify it, then you can push it. And it's like anything else. If you're a skier and you want to learn to do a trick, you don't go for the most difficult version of that trick. If you want to do an inverted aerial, you're not going to start with a triple twisting, triple backflip. You're going to learn to do the first one. If you can just land a backflip, you got a shot at from there going anywhere else. So why is male overwhelming? Because you don't know. It's the 5%. Is there going to be a bill coming that you got to deal with? Is it going to be somebody that's telling you that they're canceling this, or they're turning off that, or they're repoing this? The not knowing what's going to come in that envelope, that makes perfect sense to me. I completely understand why that would freak you out. Absolutely. And look at all of the people. Audra in Denver says, yeah, I hate getting mail. You're not unique. I hope that doesn't bum you out. It shouldn't. If you think your ailment is unique, then you're a freak, right? You're a weirdo. What's wrong? What the hell's wrong with me? If you realize that there's a bunch of people who think like that, right? There are a bunch of people who think like that. That can go in two directions, you know. I think it's great that what we do, it validates emotions. It validates feelings. It lets you know that a bunch of people feel this. This doesn't make you a weirdo. A lot of people are afraid of mail. A lot of people are afraid of what's about to happen. I don't even want to look at it. Rocket Queen says, my mail piles up. I hate opening mail. You and about 80% of the world. But I promise you, they all think that they're a freak. They all think they're unique about that. The problem with that, though, is that there are habits or there are things about us that probably shouldn't be normalized. You know what I mean? There are channels out on cyberspace. Now, obviously, there are a lot less of them on YouTube these days. But there were places that you could go to and watch the cartels in Mexico torture people to death. I've never looked at one because that to me is a horrific concept. But it gets normalized when there are 40,000 views. There are people who go, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. A bunch of people like watching this. No, there's something wrong with you. For real. And if, you know, the internet, because of how it works, they joke about this, but virtual reality. The first applications that really got tuned up were porn. Point of view porn. That's the first because there's so much money in it. The most expensive .com address of all time was XXX.com because it's just the moneymaker, right? Porn is a huge part of the internet. But if you say, you know what really turns me on? I only like chicks who are naked but wearing a black sock and a red sock, and they need to have a football helmet on, right? Wearing one glove like Michael Jackson, and then smacking their significant other with a 3-pound carp, right? While playing Guns N' Roses. You go, what? Don't worry about it. There's a site out there for 150 other people who think the same thing. We have a way, the internet has a way of normalizing things that are really kind of odd. And some of them aren't healthy, right? Some of them aren't healthy. TikTok, right, is a cesspool in a lot of ways. And the reason it's a cesspool is because the algorithm is being run. Scroll that zipper. Stop that. Hey, stop that. My cat does things to push my buttons while I'm live because she knows I can't stop her from doing it. She's doing that on the couch. She will never do that while I'm awake. It is disturbing. It's absolutely disturbing. But we normalize behavior, and the internet does this. TikTok is the most advanced artificial intelligence on planet Earth. I'm not playing with you. The most advanced AI on planet Earth belongs to ByteDance, which is the Chinese government, and they built this. And if you look at where you sign up for it, you say, in order to make the experience of me surfing on TikTok more applicable to just me, you have permission to look at all of my text messages, read all of my emails, look at all of my private photos or videos, everything in my phone or on my computer, they're all you. She does, that's exactly what it is. She feels I'm ignoring her and she wants my attention, no question. But she also knows, because we've been doing this for so long, if she wanted the attention, she'd get in the basket that's right here. What she wants to do is go, I can do whatever I want because dad can't get me. See, Valerie says, I'm afraid of mail too. Email and regular mail. My roommate and friend helps me by going through it with me. I feel like a child. Don't. Honestly, the things that, so mail's a great example. If you're afraid of going through the mail, when we say stuff like, or we think stuff like, it makes me feel like I'm a child, we're giving it a level of power that you shouldn't. And the reason is a ton of people rephrase this, reframe it in your mind. You're afraid of the 5% you can't control. Does that sound as bad? You're afraid of the 5%, right? What's going to happen? You're afraid of things you can't control. You and everybody else. You're not unique. You're not special. You may be in a million other ways, But the fact that you don't like things you can't control, that's everybody. I hate the 5%. I do. I don't even, I'm not excited about things that might happen that are great, because I'm very comfortable in the little world where I can control the 5%. That doesn't make me unique either. But you know what I found after getting sober? That the greatest things that are going to happen to you in life don't happen where you can control that 5%. It's just the way it is. It's safer, but the bad things aren't going to happen. You can protect that. The good things aren't either. And that's really where you're at on that. So what you have to do is you have to become master, not of the 5%, because you ain't got a shot at that, right? You can't. You have no ability whatsoever to master the things that you can't control, because you can't control them. It's their defining characteristic. It's what makes them you can't control it part, but you can do the internal. So the external, Johnny comes up to hand me a cup of coffee while I'm going live and he spills it on my lap, right? That's something that I can't control. How I react to it, if I punch my brother in the head for doing it, the guy's trying to bring me a cup of coffee and be nice. If I freak out and I throw the laptop off of the balcony, the 5%, we can't control the uncontrollable. Sounds funny, doesn't it? Should be a t-shirt. Should be a t-shirt. You can't control the uncontrollable. You can control how you react to the uncontrollable. You ever meet those people who are unflappable no matter what happens? I mean, no matter what happens. I worked for a guy named Greg. It's one of the first jobs I ever had. And we built cabinets, and I built the bar in the ski area where I hung out every single day. The bar I built it. And I built it in high school. And it was a project I did all by my onesies, because my boss would trust me to do things. And he really kind of pushed me. And the sad thing is, at 16 and 17, I was more unflappable than I am at 55. I was so much better at the 95%, at dealing with the 5%. And some of that's because of brain injury. And there's some things that I know that are a reality, but that's my everyday, what I need to work on. People think I am unflappable. They're sadly mistaken. You're just good at shoving crap in your closet. That's different, right? The people that are unflappable actually deal with the uncomfortable 5% in real time. My boss, Greg, says to me, there's what do they call those? It's like a service bar, where you put your tray on it, you slide it along, and they can take stuff off. It's a service bar. They're going to serve that way. It's like they do it in prison. I know there's a name for it on the street, but it's a service bar where you put a tray and you slide it along. And my job was to build one. And the difference is it was really kind of a beautiful one. It was built out of oak. It wasn't like something you would see in prison. Suffering is a result of asking from the world to give you the impossible. God help us. What a great comment. Wow, what a great comment. Suffering is a result of asking from the world to give you the impossible. Yeah, or to not give you what you don't want. If the world just gave you everything, that would be great. I'm great in a crisis. I wait until later to get upset. Oh, Barbara, if that is the fact, then you know that and you've identified that and you've said it out loud. It's time, right, to start working on how to fix that. And that's where the journal comes in. But the bar that's in the ski area is still there, to be sure. I don't know about the service bar, but when I built the one in the service bar, it was in a city, and it's funny because in Vermont, cities are not cities. But my boss said, this one's on you. I trust you. You're going to build it. And it was in 8 foot. You can't build one 35, 40 feet long. So they were in 8 foot sections. And I think it was just over 40 feet altogether. So like 5 sections. And he said, you're going to put it in. You're going to build it. This is on you. I trust you. I said, awesome. And there were 2 other employees who were just about my age. One of them might have been a year younger, but I had been working there a lot longer because he was my next door neighbor. So I'd been working for him since I was just a youngster. When I installed this thing, I looked at it. It was perfect. I was like, look at this. I nailed it. Woohoo! Patting myself on the back, really fired up. So my boss came out and I said, check this out, Greg. What do you think? He said, it looks great. I said, thank you. He goes, let's see how level it is. Ruh-roh. Oh, no. Like there was not a point where I did what I was supposed to. And it's really kind of a cool lesson because it was built in sections. So I took one of those levels and I put it on each section and you look at the little ball in there and it's perfect. But it could be level in each section but not be the same from number 1 to number 8. You got to compare that kind of a thing, right? So Greg comes in and he's looking, and when he gets to the very end, and he's got, you know, the little thing with the eyepiece and all that, he gets to the very end. He said, I said, is it off? He went, a little. I said, what's a little? He goes, it drops about 9 inches. In other words, if you put a ball on the son of it, it would roll. And I went, oh my God. And he went, I said, how do you fix 9 inches? I said, can we shim it? He goes, we could, but there would be a shim this big on one end of it. And I went, oh my God. And I thought, man, he's going to fire me, you know? And he started to laugh. And it started out as a, and then it got a little bit bigger. And within about 20 seconds, it looked like he was watching Tommy Boy. Like he had his hands on his hips. He's throwing his head back. He was laughing his ass off. And I said, man, I'm so glad that you're not angry. He said, why would I be angry? He's like, I'm not even the one that has to fix it. You know, this is on you. You're going to be the one that fixes it. He said, but that's pretty damn bad. He's like, 9 inches. He's like, I just don't understand how it could be that off. And I said, I'm so sorry. He said, for what? I said, screwing that up that bad. He goes, did I ever show you how to use I said, no. He goes, well, I guess it's on me, isn't it? Now, there aren't that many bosses that would look at that situation, and that's unflappable. You get it? The reason he was unflappable is he wasn't going to ever allow somebody to take the blame for something that they didn't do if it's his responsibility. And he wasn't going to let whatever happened destroy the rest of his day or the rest of his week or the rest of his life. There's a problem. What's the solution? This is broken. How do we fix it? And not, there's a problem. It's his fault. If that's your first go-to, it's probably not healthy. I've had people tell me I'm such a strong person. No stuff will fall out of my closet if the door's open. And I'm better than I used to be after years of therapy. Nothing will fall out of my closet if the door is open. How good is that? I think most women are good in a crisis, then feel the aftershocks. I don't know if there's any truth to that. And I mean, and I'll tell you why. I used to have a whole laundry list of things that I believed. Men are better at this, women are better at that. This country is solid in this way. That country is not good in this way. And these are things that I had hammered home in my head. And I've come to realize that I'm not ever right. Right? I'm never right. And I have met so many people, like, you know, men are much more visual, right? Women are much more communicative. And then you meet a woman who is completely the opposite. She's not much on communicating, and she stares at every single dude that walks by, and it sounds like a dude looking at women. Oh my God, get a look at that guy's legs. And you're like, what the hell is that? We do these broad brushstroke generalizations. If you knew how many times I've heard women go, well, guys don't like girls that look like, you're not a guy. The hell do you know what guys like? And don't paint every single dude with one brush. Maybe your guy, you could try with that. If you've been with a guy for 40 years, you probably have the ability to say, my man thinks this. Don't say men think this. Because I spent 13 years with men. Couldn't get away from them, right? And there was nobody else around. It was just men. And even in that environment, I realized that the generalizations that people had said about them, this is what men like? No. But I, after spending all of that time in there, couldn't say this is what men like. Because every single person, man, woman, whatever, your life experiences are what's going to change you. The 10,000 airbrushed images of women you see a day are going to change you. Go to some place where that doesn't take place and watch what men think or watch what women think. It's really, really different. And I'm not busting on you for what you're saying, but it brings up a very interesting point, doesn't it? What do guys think? What do men think? I know what boys want. You might not. You might not. It's anytime we start doing those generalizations, it's dangerous. It really is. It's dangerous. And it opens the door to all kinds of other things that are even worse. The most ignorant people on the planet, I promise you, the most ignorant people on the planet are guilty of saying this race of people is that. That race of people is this. And it could be positive. You know, obviously it's really easy to go to the negative. You know, people who use the N word, people who think that, you know, people whose skin color is not the same as their own, or people who don't have stars upon theirs are completely different based on that. That's ignorance at a wild level. But Where we're at now, I'm getting ready to go and work with some people in rehab. And one of the people that was talking to me about it when I first brought it up said, it's more powerful when you go in and talk to these people because of the color of your skin. Because these people think that gringos, right? They think that white people have it completely put together. Like we've got it all figured out. And we obviously, honestly, not only isn't that true, right? Because you can't make those kind of broad brushstrokes, but I think that often developing countries look at the countries that aren't developing and they go, they've got it together. You can make a phone call at 2 a.m. and get a pizza. You can have a brand new computer to your house in 2 minutes, right? Anything that you want is a phone call away. I'm not sure that the things that we use as a metric for measuring development or developed countries, but it's frightening, even if it's positive, right? Women are 10 times better communicators than men. I do happen to believe this, but you can't paint that brushstroke either. I know I'm wrong, but I just know that they're more likely to try to communicate. And the reason is genetically. That's just kind of how it's hammered home. We talk about this all the time on the boat, but as we start to really come online, as we start to really develop, boys fight each other and girls destroy each other's reputations. We're very, very different that way. So we tend to develop our communicative skills later in life, boys versus girls, right? My son who is autistic takes words literally. Like if someone said, get lost, he would go and get lost or hide. And you have to, I get that. Communicating, I had a cellmate that was Russian and he was just learning the language. We were playing a card game and I said to him, get the F out of here, get the F out of here. And he said, I would love to, but door is locked. Right? And I said, it's an expression. I didn't really want you to leave. But because of the language barrier, things that we use as slang, right, doesn't come across the same way. It sort of messes up with communication, but it was so funny because of it. I agree. Hey, that is not what we're doing. Man, she's sharpening her claws on the art. She's doing that just to push her dad's buttons. So there was like a day later, I'm sitting in the day room and his Russian co-defendant came in and he said, the public defender just came to me with the first deal that the prosecutors put on the table. And you never take the first deal that the prosecutor put on the table. But I said, what was the first deal? And he said, 10 years. This guy it was like a shoplifting thing. I mean, they took a lot, but it was shoplifting. And you don't get 10 years for shoplifting. I said, 10 years, get the out of here. And my cellmate puts his hand on his arm and he goes, he does not want you to leave. This is expression. But that guy, it was amazing how much I learned from him. And there was so much that I learned from this guy that was learning our language, this guy that grew up in a completely different environment. I learned that his teachers, right, when he was a youngster, they would talk about African Americans and they would use the N-word. And they wouldn't use it like derogatory. They would use, so Mexican people who live in, they would use the N-word in that position. So this is a true story. I swear to God. He comes out the first day he's in the unit. This is a county jail, not prison. The first day that he is there, he comes out and he goes, which TV is N-word TV? Right? There were two TVs in the day room. And you want to talk about that? Huh? Like the music stops and everyone, guys playing cards, guys working out. And he said it loud. And he said it because he didn't want to be disrespectful. He didn't want to turn the channel on a TV that was not the white TV, because that's how it works in there. There's a white TV, there's a black TV. But which TV is, right? N-word TV. Everybody just turned. And I'm like, holy hell. Not only is this going to start a riot, but he's my cellmate. Like, this is this is my cellmate. And this guy goes, what the F did you just say? The power of words, right? He doesn't know the power of that word. The stupid teachers that taught him used that word. So when the guy said, what the F did you just say? Cleared his throat and made sure his diction was clearer. I said, which TV? He has no idea the power of the word, because where he lived, they hadn't ascribed power to that word. Here, in our country, that word is used every 2 seconds. So when this guy comes in, they're calling each other this. Why would he not think that? Nah, they don't use the hard R. But if you're a Russian and you're from another country and you're just learning the language, this is what he thought. And I said, can I handle it? This guy does not speak the language, man. And I promise you, this is not a respect thing. It was crazy. And I had to take him upstairs. I said, you can't say that. And he said, this is their name. I said, trust me, it's not. And I tried to explain this to him. And when he came back downstairs, just the genuine apology, I am sorry. This was taught to me. There was no hate in it at all. We give triggers power, right? We give power to words. You can't say this word, it triggers me. Take that word to any other place in the country or any other place in the world, and it's not anything. There's no power to it. That's 95%. You understand? That's what you ascribe. And we do this with everything. He was one of the nicest guys I ever met. There was nothing in him that disliked people for the color of their skin. There wasn't. But that word has power. We allow words to do things to us that we shouldn't. They don't have power. You give them power. It's a word. And triggers are that way. You know what? When someone says this, man, I want to get high. Well, then you need to work on that. Big time. The ability for a word to make you want to use the album, Appetite for Destruction. Why does that make me want? Well, that's easy for me, right? That makes complete sense for me. When I was using that album every single day to get up to, literally, I had a big stereo system. I had Harman Kardon speakers. I had a big, huge, thumping stereo system in my house. And I would get up every single morning, right? And I would cook the first shot. And I would kick on that album. We can, as addicts, get to a point, they study this stuff. You can take somebody and if they do the same thing every day and that's the routine, you can turn that music on, crank it up as loud as it can go. And when that thump, thump, that first bass line, the first drum comes in, their pupils will dilate. Because the brain is releasing the feel-good chemicals that it knows is coming because of what you're about to do with that spoon. When you start to understand the power of that, that's a malfunctioning reward center of your brain. That's a malfunctioning reward center of your brain. Being here and doing what I'm doing right now is the functioning reward center of the brain. I started this show off by saying, you and me both, Valerie, I started this show off by saying, I'm so much more comfortable doing the morning show than I am doing the night show. This show gets me high. The night show doesn't. And even if the night show is a good one, and even if there's 1,000 people watching and they're putting up super chats and we're doing dialogue, it doesn't get me high. It's not going to release feel-good chemicals in my brain. This is. Oh, something I wanted to share about journaling and privacy. I forgot that you can password protect a Word document if you want to go that route. Awesome. People are going to get mad at me. I'm going to get ugly emails. But if you're not journaling because you can't protect the journal from other people reading it, you're just looking for an excuse not to journal. Even if you were damaged this way as a kid, your mom grabbed your diary. Your diary couldn't be military encrypted. You didn't have the ability as a kid to put it in a $200 safe that they would have to hit with dynamite to get it out. If you're not journaling for that reason, then you don't want to journal. You could write the stuff and then burn it. If that's your reason for not journaling, you just don't want to journal. And that's okay. But don't tell yourself that's not why you're journaling. Lying to yourself is hideous. Seriously, I did it for a long time. It's a bad road to hoe. Like how you have to go to the bathroom just by hitting the button on the coffee maker. Taylor Miller, booyah. We get programmed. When I lived in Texas, I lived right near Houston. Hold on one second. I don't know if it's just me, but I hate when I am watching something and they say, oh, trigger warning. I want to scream. Let me decide what my triggers are, not you. Would you believe me if I say that I say that verbally every time I see it? You don't know what my triggers are. Let me decide what my triggers are. Give me a trigger warning, right? Now, if it says the images you're about to see are disturbing, they involve this, this, and this, now I can make a damn decision. You've just told me, and I have the ability to say those images, the 5%, very often cause how I react, the 95%, to make me struggle. I have a tough time getting through it. I will not watch images of an animal being hurt. I'd rather jump off of a balcony. So if somebody wants to warn me that that's what's about to come, then great. I appreciate that. But don't say to me, there are words coming up. We're going to say words that you might not be able to handle. We are enforcing that. We are reinforcing that. We are hammering that home. And the next generation is literally going to say, you can't say that word. That's one of my triggers. Okay, everybody put your trigger warnings out right now. What are your words? And by the time it's done, I go, hey, I'm Tommy. You guys have a good evening. We'll see you tomorrow. When I lived in Texas, I used to pick up the white stuff. Oh, what am I doing? I used to buy cocaine. And there was 2 places that I bought it. And it was right before, it was right after a bridge or right before a bridge, depending on which way you were going, like a causeway bridge. So on both sides. And if Todd wasn't home, I went to Debbie, and they were on either sides of it in different apartment complexes. And that wasn't my drug of choice, but I used to do it and mix it with my drug of choice. I would do speedballs. But when I decided I wasn't going to have anything to do with that substance anymore, because I had abused it really hard for a whole summer, and I had begun smoking it, not buying crack. I was making it, but I was brushing my teeth one morning, and it kind of seemed like my teeth were all moving. And I was like, yeah, I got to stop. In fact, it was almost this, it was July 22nd was the day that I quit, long time ago, the 90s. But when I quit, I said to the guy I was working with at the time, his name was Walt, I said, I'm not doing blow anymore. I'm done. I'm not doing cocaine anymore. That's it. And he's like, for real? I said, yeah. He's like, I don't think you'll be able to do it. I said, trust me, I'll be able to do it. I wasn't giving up heroin, right? I was just giving up that. And he goes, you know what? I'll try to do it with you. I said, are you really going to do that? He said, absolutely. I'll try to do it with you. I said, excellent. Well, we had to take that bridge in order to go to work. He owned the place. We would pull into the Applebee's to use the bathroom because driving over that bridge drove both of us immediately to the toilet. By the first week, we would drive around the lake. It was about 15 more minutes so that we didn't have to go over that bridge. That's legit. That's training the body. If you can train the body in a negative way, you can train the body in a positive way. You understand this, right? It can happen. Thank you for addressing the trigger warning thing. There are no trigger warnings in life. So what do people in real life do when they hear certain words? Well, they have rooms that they can go to where they have Play-Doh that they can play with, or safe spaces where they can go and pet an animal. We have sissified the planet. We have said to the planet, you will never be able to control the 95%. You will be triggered by 5% to the point where your day is ruined, your life is ruined. You just won't be able to. So here's a place where you can go that's safe. You know where the safe space is? Right here. You want a safe space? Learn how to do the 95%. The 5% you don't have any control over. You don't. There are people who say things to me and about me you wouldn't believe. That's 5%. 95% is what you can control. If I go out here, there are people who are going to talk to me and I don't understand what they're saying. I'm doing a hell of a lot better. But sometimes I get into situations where I don't understand what people are saying, and that's frustrating, especially if you pick up every 10 words or every 5 words, because you almost know what they're saying. If I'm gritting my teeth over that, I got issues. And I got issues that I need to work on, and quickly. I love you for saying the world has been sissified. That's it, isn't it? Is that not the truth? Why, thank you, Thumper. I love that. There are positive triggers. Make no mistake. There are positive triggers. Look for them. What triggers you to want to be a better person? What triggers you to want to help others? What triggers you to want to step out of your comfort zone? Because comfort zones are real. And I'll tell you something. Every great thing that ever happened to me on this planet happened outside my comfort zone. And that doesn't mean that I can tell you stories of things that were really fun, great things. They didn't change me. The things that changed me into what I am happened outside my comfort zone every single time. So when you're staring at a blank piece of paper, one of the pieces of advice people give more than any others is list out your triggers, all of the things that are going to make you want to use. I got a better idea. Put down your triggers, all of the things that make you not want to use, all of the things that you do that while you're doing it, you feel like, hey, what the hell's going on? If I didn't know better, I'd swear to God, this feels like getting high. If I didn't know better, I'd swear to God, this feels like catching a buzz. Most of the drugs on this planet just release chemicals that you already have in your brain, in your body, right? They're just releasing your own buzz. The greatest drugs on earth exist in your body. Heroin goes into the mu receptor, throws a switch, and all of that stuff comes out. That's real. There are two different receptors in the body for speed. Right? You put speed in the body and it goes there and it releases so much brain chemical all at once that you feel fantastic. Remember, if you happen to be a parent, do you remember the first time they brought your baby in? You're going to tell me you didn't get high? Trust and believe you did. Big time. The first time you saw the person that you fell in love with, or the first time you saw him sleeping in peace, you look down at the person that you love was sitting there and almost a smile on their face, and you're watching them sleep and your brain is releasing brain chemicals and you're like, holy hell, this feels good. You're not in the act of doing the nasty. You're just looking at the person. You ever have somebody you really love show up at the airport to pick you up? Haven't seen him in a while, and you look at him and you go, oh, you're getting high. There are good triggers on this planet. Unfortunately, all we do is talk about the bad ones. And we talk about them in a way that we can't fix it, right? There's nothing we can do about this. Comfort zone is a hindrance and sometimes my own worst enemy, says Tommy Bird. You will find that this chat will teach you more than I do if you're reading it. I promise. I promise. And it won't sound like, well, this guy's got it together, because I don't. I have a microphone. There's a camera in front of me. Just another dude on the lifeboat. Love boat, my bad. I wholeheartedly believe having my daughter at 17 saved my life. I would have gone down any path to feel love. Suddenly, I had more love than I could ever imagine. Booyah. Funny how those brain chemicals work. Science has determined that addiction is caused by a malfunctioning reward center of the brain. I'm not making this up. This is science. It's a disease that is caused by a malfunctioning reward center of the brain. Your brain begins to reward you by releasing chemicals. It rewards you for doing the wrong thing. And I don't just mean that you put the needle in your arm. Okay, that's going to get you high. You get the bag in your hand and your brain goes, whoop, that's it. And they releases the same chemicals as when the nurse put your daughter in your hand. How in God's name are you going to cope with that? Well, number one, you got to not put a bag of dope in your hand ever again. That's number one. But number two, if addiction is caused by a malfunctioning reward center, what could we do with a functioning reward center? What could you do if you could control the functioning reward center? If you could determine the things that you were going to do that were going to make you get those dopamine hits, whatever, however you want to think about it. But it's way more than that. Dopamine is one brain chemical, and it's one that they talk about a lot. But normally, really, dopamine is really connected to novelty. And again, the older you get, the tougher novelty is, right? Tommy, I've been everywhere. Did you talk to people everywhere? For real. You can go to the same restaurant every single morning, get your coffee, walk home. What if you went there one day and introduced yourself to 3 people? What if on the way there, you made a point of saying, I'm going to smile and say hi to every single person that passes by? Do you know that physiology will completely rewire your emotions, right? If you put a smile on your face, right? That physiology, doing this is going to change your psychology. It's impossible to be pissed off after 5 minutes of smiling like the Joker, because your body has always said, hey, he's doing this number with his face. Something good's happening. Gotta be, right? This person's happy. Let's send some chemicals down that rewards happiness. If you walk around frowning, just how you walk. You see the people, motivational people, right? Every time you see them on stage, it's like their chest is out, their shoulders are back. You think they're doing that so that you will see that they're confident? They're not. I worked as a professional public speaker. They're doing that because they need to get high before they go on stage. They're going out there to motivate. If they go out there and they're not, so every trick they can do, right? Tony Robbins, before that guy goes on stage, beats the piss out of himself. Actually, he does it on stage too. Makes a fist, smacks himself in the chest with it. First couple of times you see him do it, like, what the hell's he doing? Because he's huge. Like you can hear it, like 20 rows back. What he's done over the course of the time that he's been a speaker, a motivational speaker, is his body knows that when he does this, it knows what's coming. He's about to go out. It's going to be the people screaming. It's going to be the lights, but that's going to be, he's going to get that going, and his body begins to release those chemicals. Sounds silly? He built a trigger, right? So that right before he goes to do what he wants to do, he's going to automatically turn on those chemicals. It doesn't have to be that extreme. Scents, things that you smell, can be the most powerful things in the world. Ever walk into an elevator and smell the cologne or the perfume that your high school sweetheart wore? And you go, huh? Instantly, right? Instantly, you're back to a time, a place, and an emotion. If you have a malfunctioning reward center in your brain, if your brain fires chemicals out at times you don't want it to, fix it. May sound silly, right? I can't fix it. Have you ever tried? Have you ever thought of the concept of there are such things as positive triggers? 51 of you are listening to me, not because I'm handsome, because of being in this chat and listening to people, right? Zero Fox Given says, Tommy Rhodes, same. I have imprisoned myself in a safe place. And what's ironic is I was once really in prison. Makes no sense. Frustrating as hell. Zero Fox Given, it makes so much more sense than you know. This is something that former inmates do constantly. Constantly. We got very used to being trapped, and trapped means to us safety. When you were in prison, and you, me, Tommy, anybody, when we're in prison, you leave that prison cell, that's where the bad stuff happens. That's where people get stabbed. That's where people get beat up. That's where all the riots and everything happens outside that cell. So we train ourselves. I did 13 years of it. In there, I can control that. That's the 5%. That's safety. Out there, that's the 95%. I got absolutely no control over that. So we do everything we can to build ourselves a much more attractive prison. It does make sense. It's not a good thing, but it makes sense, I promise. Since learning about the way the brain rewards us with certain chemicals, I am amazed and grateful to get high from laughing really hard. I have very funny friends. I want to tell you something. My ex made me laugh like nobody on earth. And I'll tell you, this is the truth. If I sat and I watched a movie and laughed my ass off, I'm going to get chemicals out of that that are amazing. If I'm sitting with someone that I care about and the both of us are laughing, it's a completely different, it's like homegrown, right? Or it's like, high times indoor grown 35% THC. Still the same buzz. One's a hell of a lot better than the other. When the people you love are all sitting in a room and making each other laugh, oh boy, that's a buzz. You know what's sad? Watch people laugh, right? Watch people laugh in situations. And you'll see people in the room that are doing everything they can to hide the laugh. If you laugh like no one's looking at you, like you don't care, you throw your head back and laugh your ass off, it's really different. But unfortunately, somehow we're ashamed of laughter. Right? It's too vulnerable. Be vulnerable. There was a bumper sticker I saw once, and it said, one of you will probably put it up. That's the beautiful thing about the chat. But it said something along the lines of dance like no one's looking, right? Laugh like a child. There's a list of things that you're supposed to do. Laugh like no one's looking, right? Children don't know to be ashamed. We have to learn that. It's pretty damn sad, isn't it? For real. If I go to a place, I'm not dancing. Valerie, I have no doubt. I'd like to believe we're great friends in this universe. I come here every morning to get high. I like doing the morning show way more than the night show because this is where I get high. But I'm telling you right now that laughter isn't something that you're supposed to be ashamed of. And if the laughter that you're getting in your life, you're getting from someone that you love, it's a different form of buzz. Do you understand? Night and day, completely different. As far away as north is from south. Why are we ashamed of laughing? You know what? You got to answer that question for yourself. But people are. Jiggers, okay, it's terrifying sometimes at the things that we decide that we're ashamed of. Don't be ashamed of laughter. And that reward center in your brain, trust and believe you can rewire it. So if you're staring at a blank piece of paper, write down the things that trigger you to feel better. You want me to start you off? The crew of the Love Boat. Right? A positive message. Go from there. Petting a cat or a dog. Looking at your pet. Looking at your child. These things get you high. You'll start to see threads that weave through there. Things that you go, oh, you know what? I'm seeing where this kind of thing does this. Now we know how we can start to work on reprogramming that reward center to do the right thing. Audience participation at its finest. Thank you, Valerie. I consider you friend and teacher as well. If I wasn't learning from the people here, I'd find somewhere else to go. When you stop learning, you're not really moving in a good direction. Ashley G. Ooh, you know what? We're ending with this one up there. Adorable Anarchy, I'll take it. I am Tommy Stubing, and this is the Love Boat. If you look for miracles, you find them. You're absolutely right. But if you don't believe in them, you'll never see one. I am Tommy.
I'm going live in 30.
My brother, the legend, Johnny Scoville, will be live in 30 minutes on Chase the Heat South America. Don't think he's eating peppers, folks. Get over there and watch what he does because it smells and looks a lot like this. Between now and the next time that I see you, do me a favor. Put a little love in your heart. I'm Tommy, and I will see you on the next one. God bless everybody. Have a great day.